Okay, ich habe gerade während einer kleinen Pause darüber nachgedacht, was wir als nächstes tun. Und zwar gebe ich immer zuerst der Liebe eine Chance, auch wenn das wahrscheinlich wieder furchtbar für sie und uns enden wird. Also Option Nummer 1.
Listen, said Renato. Let's not do this. Let's not do what? Asked Zenobia. Look, you're the Emperor's right hand. You are going to have me interrogated, he said. Sure, yeah, but then I remembered how you feel about me. How I feel about you? You are going to have me interrogated. But I didn't, because you care about me, said Renato. Well, guess again, Buster, she said, and she pushed him off his own boat. As he plummeted towards the bottomless clouds of the abyss, Renato decided that he'd not really handle the situation with his usual finesse. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it.
Ah, geil.
The city was already under Zenobia's control.
Echt, ich muss nochmal durchs ganze Level rätschen.
Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them?
Okay.
But this was war.
Well played, game.
It wasn't
well
meant
played.
to be pretty.
Ah, das fand ich jetzt gut. Schubst die mich einfach vom Schiff in den Tod. Ah, Zenobia. Ah, du kostest mich zwar 3 Minuten, aber es war ein guter Lacher. Hallo. Schlägst du mal das blöde Ding da? Danke.
Why was Lupino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap.
Ich muss durch die
But you
Kanalisation.
never knew how Lupino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lupino wanted. And there must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
Ja, okay, das geht super schnell.
So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato. Oh, this is gonna be fun, said Lupino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan.
Ah, dann wirst du halt doch verhört. Dann ab.
Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, she'd vanished from Swordfu School, from his life, without even saying goodbye, without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter. Renato was aware of her feelings.
Ja, das machen wir nicht
Maybe this
nochmal.
was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him?
Definitiv. Ah, nicht benutzen. Plan festhalten.
Lupino was right, Renato thought reluctantly. She knows things. She recognized his look. You're taking me to the interrogators, aren't you? She said, wide-eyed. And then she jumped, with horror. Renato saw Zenobia plummeting. Then he saw the nexus below them. Cats always land on their feet. Ah, she'll head for the Imperial outpost, yelled Lapino. You have to catch her.
Okay. Mach ich.
Cats can run faster, but foxes can run longer. If he ran, he could head her off before she reached her minions at the outpost. Well, he did love a good chase.
Unfassbar, dass so ein altes Spiel selbst auf der PS5 noch Lag erzeugt. So, der Framerate einbricht. Beim letzten Mal, als wir sie verfolgt haben, konnte ich hier noch nicht rein. Ach, aber es führt uns an denselben verfluchten Ort.
He was closing on her. He could smell her fear. He tried not to think about the interrogators at the secret base. What they'd do to her. Maybe it didn't have to end that way. Maybe he could talk to her. But, after all, there were worse things the Imperials had done to friends of his. Bernardo reached the outpost. The Imperials there were no match for him. Soon after, Zenobia limped up the path. When she realized he was already in front of her, she didn't even try to run. Oh, you left without saying goodbye. Again, he said, please. I'm enjoying this a little too much. She said, shaken. Oh, spare us the chit-chat, would you? Said Lapino as he shackled her hands so she couldn't throw spells. She knows all his plans. All the way back to the Farfarer, Lapino nagged Renato about how the interrogators would pry all the intel out of Zenobia. How that would turn the tides in the imminent battle. All they had to do was take her to the rebel secret base. Renato didn't like to think about what the interrogators would do to her.
Ach, wird schon wieder die Leute rufen.
Talk to her.
Aber wir waren hier schon. Zenobia befand sich erneut in Renatos Gewalt. Als nächstes musste sie zu ihrer Rebellenbasis. Aber die Dinge, die die Verhörspezialisten ihr antun würden, der Gedanke ließ Renato erschauern. Doch es war nötig, um den Krieg zu gewinnen. Ja, er würde Zenobia zum geheimen Rebellenstützpunkt bringen.
As they reached the ruins, Renato could see ravens everywhere, searching for the rebel base. They'd have to hide the Farfarer or go on foot. What if we get separated? Asked Lapino, for once thinking ahead. I'll show you a map to the base. Renato told Lapino. Renato, don't do this, said Zenobia. We were friends once. Shut it, witch, or I'll shackle your mouth too, said Lapino. See? Renato thought. There was no way Lapino was working for the Empire. He really hated Zenobia. And then, a few moments later, they touched down.
Aber wir wissen es doch. Du weißt es.
As Lapino pulled Zenobia off the Farfarer, Bernardo readied himself for the battle ahead. "I'm sorry I nicked your jacket," she said. "It's just... oh God. It's stupid, but it smelled like you." "What?" he said, confused. "Then... why didn't you ride? Why didn't you far speak?" "Oh, save the romantic nostalgia. Let's go!" shrieked Lapino. So Renato launched himself down the path to the secret base.
Oh. Es ist wie wenn Frauen dir die Hoodies klauen. Sie meinen es nicht böse. Trotzdem, es ist mein Hoodie, Bitch.
Funny about librarians. People thought of them as fussy clerks who shushed them for talking. But the librarians thought of their books as sacred, and themselves as priests in a temple of knowledge. Who knew they were willing to die to protect it? Bernardo had misgiving. It had been Lapino's idea to capture Zenobia. Lapino who'd guessed she'd run to the outpost. There was something wrong with the way none of Lapino's plans had gone wrong yet. It wasn't like him. They caught their breath. "It's beautiful," she said, looking at the ruins. "This used to be the library of Ubar," he said, "before your father's ravens smashed it." "Do we have to talk politics?" she asked. "That's not how I want to remember you," she said with an odd, wistful look at her face. She was as beautiful as she'd ever been, and as brave. Lapino huffed. They got back on the trail. The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
Okay, das war wirklich mangelhaft. Ich werde mir hier die Truhe holen, um mich mal aufzufrischen. Also gut, Lapino, verrate uns. Zeig mir wie.
As they made their way to the secret rebel base, Renato felt strange. Zenobia was his prisoner, yet somehow she felt more like an old friend. He wanted to tell her all his secrets, but suddenly the ruins lit up with thousands of fireworks. There was a thunderous roar and dust rose. The caves were collapsing. The caves? You've been playing me? Renato said, and he stared at Zenobia. I'm sorry, she said, and she seemed almost embarrassed. Then everything went dark. When Renato came to, he had a terrible headache. Also, Zenobia's sword was at his throat. And her shackles were gone. So was Lapino. The terrible thing is, he said, I really have missed you. Now that we've destroyed the rebellion, would you consider becoming an advisor to the Emperor's daughter? I'm no one's servant. Everybody serves. Even if it's only destiny. I like to choose my own destinies, he said. The whole point of a destiny is you can't choose. Oh, never mind, she said. Look, if I see you again, I'll have to kill you. He watched her ship soar away. He would see her again, he decided. Even if he had to fight his way across the entire fleet.
Ach, Zenobia, was tust du bloß mit uns?
The Imperial fleet was cleaning up the few rebel remnants. For only a moment, he thought about running. But heroes don't run, even when the world is against them. Even when their cause is hopeless, and their efforts futile, and pointless, and useless, and death painful and guaranteed. He's decided to stop thinking for a while. There it was again. The back door to the portal that went to the center of the fleet. Renato's arm was sore, his armor wet with raven blood. He was tired of death. But death was not yet tired of him. The rebels were losing. Badly. In some other universe, Renato thought, he and Zenobia left sword fu school together, taken other names and sailed off into the mists. Not this Zenobia, and not him. For him, there was nothing to do but forge ahead. Kill the Emperor and end this. Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Again. This time, he'd make an end of him. He'd screwed up last time, but he had a good feeling about this time.
War nicht unbedingt perfekt, aber es hat gereicht. Wie sterben wir dieses Mal? Aber damit bin ich auch mit der Lapino-Geschichte, glaube ich. Nee, wir müssen den Kern noch holen, stimmt.
Zenobia was there. Why'd you have to come back? She said, guess I'm just serving my destiny. He shrugged. You don't even know what that word means. She said, do you ever wonder if things have been different all the time? She said, and drew her sword.
Das ist mehr ein
In
Dolch.
the end, Renato lay bleeding out on the deck. Zenobia sat by his side, upset. What are you so upset about? He asked. You wouldn't understand. Why?
I do.
Why didn't you tell me you were going to leave school? I was afraid you'd convince me not to. I guess I'll have to buy you a drink in the halls of the Valiant then, he told her. And then he was gone.
Oh,
He should go back to some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up. Like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. And he hadn't learned anything new this time. He'd done the same thing twice, yet expected a different outcome.
Geschichte 10. Gassi gehen mit Katze. Ein Held läuft nicht davon, selbst wenn die ganze Welt gegen ihn ist. Also eine Geschichte haben wir noch, die mit Zenobia endet. Ich schätze mal, das hat was mit dem
The
Iblis-Stein
book's
zu tun.
pages fluttered to the beginning once again.
Aber
Faster
jetzt
than
holen wir uns
before,
erstmal
and he fell.
Lapino und dann den
The
Kern.
clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for
Ich meine,
the
das
secret
Level, um
rebel
Lapino
base.
zu holen, ist nicht lang.
They needed a game changer.
Das
Pieces of the Sky
muss
Ripper
ich
had
jetzt diesmal,
surfaced.
denke ich mal, nicht skippen. Einfach mal
Renato
durchrennen.
knew that using it could go
Ja,
catastrophically
ja,
wrong.
ich weiß. Ich habe schon
But
alles
he was
damit
sure
gemacht.
he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple
Ja,
had
ja,
risen
ja,
out
das
of
werden wir
empty
noch
desert.
machen.
The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals.
Ja, 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 ja.
Could this be where
Ist ja-
the Iblis stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does.
Jalla, jalla.
Thought
Lapino.
Renato. And
Der
also,
Verräter.
his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course.
Gib mir den hinterfotzigen
Renato
Haaren.
had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
Moin.
Ah, Lapino.
Verpiss dich, Lapino.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? The Ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding. Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lapino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest.
Ah, noch so 2 Kämpfe, dann gibt's das nächste Level up.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that.
Irgendwo ist hier eine Bohrmaschine am Start.
What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct a crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him, and it would blow up in his face.
Ja,
Maybe
Selbstmordattentat.
he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first.
Lapricino. Können wir.
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison. We capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general,
No,
who happened
wir
to
wollen uns
also
den
be a
Kern.
deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him.
And a hard spot.
On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power.
Ja, warum nicht? Zwar konnte Renato das Gehäuse des Skyrippers nicht mehr an sich bringen, aber vielleicht den Kern. Möglicherweise konnte Lapino ihm helfen, seine Kraft zu nutzen. Wieso kann ich nicht einfach zurückfliegen und das Gehäuse und den Kern holen?
To make the
Dämlich,
Sky Ripper,
aber...
the transcendent emperor had wrapped an armature around the eye of a god.
Ja, weil
Bernardo
ihn
had
geholt
already
hat.
let that armature slip away to save Lapino's life. But even its core, the eye torn from a god, surely they could fashion a great weapon from that. The core of the Sky Ripper? Lapino's excited. That's an actual thing that we can just go and get. You've been busy. He sure had. Renato told him all the things he'd been up to. Soon they got to talking about old times, about wages they'd won and lost, and scrapes they'd barely got out of. It was good to be back with his friend. True, the core was capable of terrible, uncontrollable destruction. But this time, he was sure it would work great.
Ich glaube nicht, Renato.
It's beautiful here, thought Renato. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lapino was a traitor. But still, it was good company.
Ich verstehe nicht, warum ihn nicht jetzt einfach umnietet. Das ergibt für mich nämlich null Sinn.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Hey, what do ravens say when they die? Never mind. I'll wait.
Renato felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Renato smelt sick animals and dying ones, but no healthy ones. And getting a bad feeling about this, Renato thought. Maybe Lapino was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here.
Zu spät, Freund, zu spät. So, wir haben den Kern.
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Renato felt queasy, like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How could he use it? He could take it to the observatory. The scientists there could tell him how to harness its ancient power. But honestly, Renato ached to get away from it. He brought the core back with him to the Farfarer. But honestly, Renato ached to be rid of it. Tell you what, said Lupino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renato. But what if Lupino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Renato ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself.
Nein, der Kern war zu wichtig, um ihn Lapino anzuvertrauen. Der Kern des Skyrippers. Selbst ohne das Gehäuse musste es einen Weg geben, seine Kraft zu nutzen. Die Wissenschaftler auf dem Nexus wüssten sicher, wie das zu schaffen war. Konnte sich Renato wirklich darauf verlassen, dass Lapino ihn zur Inselwarte bringen würde? Nein, es war einfach zu riskant. Er würde den Kern selbst bringen müssen, selbst wenn ihn dies seiner unguten Aura aussetzen würde.
Lupino was a touchy rabbit. Renato knew that. You're brave, I know, Renato said. But this is what I was hired to do. Oh, well, at least let me run ahead and warn them you're coming. Renato wondered if Lupino was up to no good. What if the rabbit warned the
making
Empire
trouble in
instead?
the neighborhood?
Oh, but Lupino wouldn't betray him like that. Not again. Before it'd been a fluke, right? They finished the trip to the Nexus in silence. He would offer Lupino a chance to betray him, or not to. His old friend deserved another chance to prove true. All right, Renato said. Go.
Ah, Gott, sie werden alle tot sein, wenn ich da bin. Blöder Sack.
As Renato watched Lupino vanish on the horizon, he could feel nausea building in him. He felt ill. Could his knees really be aching this much?
Ja, ich
But how
verliere
could he have
Energie.
handed the core off to Lupino? That was a recipe for disaster. Renato felt worse. All his joints were aching now. He'd been through beatings that felt better than this. So the core had a kind of poison that could harm you without even touching you. That's new. Well, it had power. The rebellion needed something with power. And how was this any worse than a sword wound? Well, a death by sword was sudden and fair. This was just squalid. A piecemeal death, like old age.
Okay, ich komme auch so nicht rüber. Ah nein, der Apfel. Der rottige Apfel. Ich dachte, das Ding heilt mich nochmal. Schade. Und hier unten brennt natürlich alles. Danke, Lapino, du Arschloch.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists everywhere. Bernardo found the mad rabbit cowering under a desk.
Ah, er spielt noch
The
seine Rolle.
ravens, they must have known we were coming, said Lapino.
Oh, ich muss den letzten
How
Kampf
did you-
mit diesem scheiß Kern.
See, I was doing a card trick with my lucky deck, and I kind of bobbled the cards, so I went under the desk to gather them up, and boom! I guess we'll have to take the car straight to the secret base. Renato wasn't sure he believed that, but Lapino was talking so fast. He always seemed to make sense. The secret rebel base. Yes. They had engineers there. But wait. Calaveras, the sage in the mountains. Maybe he would know what to do with the naked
Yep.
core.
Das werde ich definitiv in Angriff nehmen.